You might be thinking about moving to northern New Jersey, but you're asking yourself, why do you want to do that? Well, in today's video, I'm going to talk about my personal journey and why my family and I moved here about 2 years ago, specifically to Summit, New Jersey. So let's get into the video and talk a little bit more. Hey, if this is your first visit to the channel and you're looking to learn everything there is to know about the Midtown direct suburbs of New York City, then subscribe below and tap the notification bell so you can be the first to hear about the current market here in New Jersey and even New York. Hi, I'm Jeff Massey, your local realtor, and I get calls every day from people just like you who are thinking about moving to one of New York City's amazing suburbs, and I love it. So whether you're moving in 7 days or 7 months, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email so we can help you make an easy, stress-free purchase in the New York City area. Whether you're moving just across the river from Manhattan or somewhere else in the United States, or even abroad, we'd love to help. So as I said today, I'm gonna get a little bit personal and talk to you a little bit about my background and why we ended up moving to New Jersey, specifically Summit, as I mentioned. I get a lot of calls and emails, and I feel like after I've done so many videos, people don't actually know who I am that well, you know, and it's not about me. The channel's really about the suburbs, but I want you guys to get to know me a little bit better so that when we do talk, you know a little bit about my perspective and where I'm coming from. So as I mentioned, my wife and I, we moved to Summit about 2 years ago. At that point in time, we had one child. He was about 18 months, and we were really excited to move there so he could have some more space to run around. We're right downtown, so we're only 2 blocks from the train station, so that was one of the biggest factors and the reason why we chose Summit, because it has such great train access. But to pull back the curtain a little bit more, I wanted to talk about my background and kind of understanding our journey. So I actually grew up in Connecticut, so I'm actually a New Jersey transplant. I'm not originally from here. And so I think that gives you a little bit more of an interesting perspective on sort of an outsider's take on these areas as we travel around and look at the different towns that we've been showcasing on the channel. And so I grew up in Connecticut. I actually went to school in Rhode Island, went to Roger Williams University and got a 5-year degree in architecture. It's called a Bachelor's of Architecture. It's an accredited degree. And with that, I ended up moving to New York City pretty fast right afterwards and got a job in the architecture world and loved it. I really enjoyed looking at the details of buildings. We looked at mostly in the city. So we were doing mostly sort of like not high rises, but sort of mid-level apartment buildings, condos, and we did some private apartments. But anyways, not to go into detail on that, I did that for about 5 to 10 years, a little bit of part-time at the end there. And I started to transition into real estate in about 2010. I was working in Manhattan with some friends. We did some new development sales in East Harlem. So I got to understand the ins and outs of real estate and how they blended really well with the architecture world, understanding the built environment, but then understanding also how those things can be sold and where the value is inherent with those assets. So I think that was really interesting overlap that I learned a lot from in that early part of my career. Later on, my wife and I were living in Brooklyn at the time, and we got the opportunity to move to London, which was really exciting. We moved there for about 4 years, almost 4 years, just shy of 4 years. When we were in London, we got to travel a lot, which is really exciting. We love to travel. Together, we've been to places like Brazil, where she grew up, really all over the place. We even did our honeymoon in Portugal. But anyways, that's a side note. We do love to travel. It's a lot of fun. And in London, while I was there, I started out with a 1-year master's degree in real estate. So with that, I added on the level of sort of doing investment analysis and cash flow and all those fun things that come with understanding real estate, as well as valuation. But afterwards, I got to work with a small investor in London. We were doing, at that point in time, we were doing student accommodation or student housing, as we would call it here in the US. We were looking at larger assets throughout the UK. And I'd like to say I've learned a lot from that experience, and I'm able to apply that to my new real estate life here in New Jersey. So fast forward a little bit more, we ended up back in the States and we moved to Jersey City. I was a little curious about looking over the river. Brooklyn was getting really expensive. So we ended up in Jersey City for about 3 years. That's when we had our son, our first son, and I'll tell you about our second son in a little bit. But we started to look a little bit out into the suburbs, and that's where I started on the journey that you're probably taking right now, trying to think about where would you want to move. And the reason why we kind of settled on New Jersey, I grew up in Connecticut, my wife's family lives in Virginia, so it was this easy transition where my parents could still get to us pretty easy for visits, and to get to her, it would actually shave off a full hour if we lived in Long Island or in Connecticut. that would add an additional hour for us to get down to her parents in Virginia area. So we thought that was a really interesting location strategically for our particular family. Now that might suit your family as well. We can talk about that obviously later if we do get in touch, which I hope we do. So we ended up looking at a lot of the Midtown Direct suburbs. Particularly, we were interested in Maplewood, a little bit of Short Hills at the time. We were looking at Summit, and we also checked out Montclair. But as I've grown through living here, I've started to get to know all the different areas around, and that's what I'm really excited to share with you on the channel. But again, going back to Summit, we were excited because it had a really great location in terms of parks nearby. Right now I'm standing in Watchung Reservation, which I've shown on the channel a few times. And we also had access to this amazingly fast commute into the city. From Summit, we've got about a 40-minute train direct into Penn Station, sometimes even 39 minutes, shaving a few minutes there. And on the way home, just as good. So we really felt comfortable with that, and we were able to really settle into the downtown because it had this sort of semi-urban downtown where people are very much accustomed to walking around, greeting each other, saying hi to your neighbors. Whereas in other towns, you have slightly smaller downtowns, or maybe not even a downtown. So it was very much suburban. So we really liked that about Summit, and getting to know, the cool shops and restaurants that the city had. And the good thing is you can still explore some of the other communities that are not too far. You could hop in the car, or you could even hop on the train, but we generally do just jump in the car and drive like 10 minutes in either direction. We can visit Chatham, we can visit New Providence, Berkeley Heights. Maplewood has a really great pizza place that I like to talk about a lot. So exploring those kinds of things and all the different cultural diversity. Like I said, my wife's from Brazil, so we go to Newark sometimes as well to go down to the Brazilian stores, the Portuguese Brazilian stores, get some of the good coffee and those really good treats that they have that they make fresh at the bakery. So anyways, side note there. But in general, we've loved living here. We've been here for 2 years. In the meantime that we've been here, we also just had our second son. He was born in December, just not long ago. So he's a little guy, and we're enjoying that and exploring the neighborhood, walking around in the stroller and giving him, a nice nap in the stroller. But it's a lot of fun living in northern New Jersey. And believe it or not, I still do a lot of work also in New York. So I'm kind of back and forth, and the commute isn't really not that bad. You can either take the train in really quick, like I said, or even driving in on, I think what's interesting about this particular location with Summit and Chatham, Short Hills, you can jump on 78, which is going to take you right into the Holland Tunnel. And generally speaking, the traffic isn't too bad, I feel like, in other towns where you're having to rely on the Garden State or other particular highways. I feel like 78 is actually pretty good. It's very streamlined. You don't get a lot of the sort of touristy traffic that can kind of back things up. Whereas I feel like it's mostly professionals going in and out of the city, and they're used to that commute and they kind of know what to expect. So getting over to Brooklyn or different parts of the city is really not a problem. Depending on the time of day, obviously, you're going to want to schedule your trips to sort of make sure that the traffic isn't too bad. So that being said, we've really enjoyed our time here. We're looking forward to meeting more people, exploring more shops and restaurants. As my son started preschool, we've been meeting more people, and it's really exciting to see why other people moved to the town. But let me know what your search is looking like. I'd love to get in touch with you and start to strategize on how you might be considering moving to the suburbs of New York City. I put my link down in the description where you can set up a chat with me, and we can discuss what you're looking to do in the next 7 days or 7 months, as I say. But really overall, in the next coming weeks and months, maybe even next year, we can get together and really strategize and look at all the different things that are important to you and what you're trying to achieve with your real estate needs. So if you're looking to learn more about the pros and cons of living in northern New Jersey, I actually just finished another video. I'm gonna link it right here, and you can take a look at that right now. I'll see you over there.